shot and hit him out of the air. If you want to get on YouTube or something. Yeah, so this ability is really cool. It's kind of her only real escape. So you get like Winston jumping on you or something like that. This is like your one good way out of jail, a free card hopefully if you can hit him if he doesn't block it with a shield.
That's useful for a criminal.
That's true. To get away.
Get a jail free card. Terrible.
Yeah, I pretend you didn't say that. Okay, her next ability is called Dynamite. This ability actually does a ton of damage. So even though she's kind of all about the weapon, she does have this one very highly damaging ability. The main reason it does a lot of damage because you can see it takes quite a while to go off. You throw it down, and Overwatch is a very fast-paced game. You throw this thing down, and it sits on the ground for 2 seconds. No one's really going to be sitting on it, like waiting for it to go off. Like, okay, I'll give you this one. So even though it does a ton of damage, it has this long fuse. It can be hard to use, but she does have a trick up her sleeve where she can shoot it at any time with either the coach gun or her Viper and detonate it early. So there's a lot of really cool trick shots you could do. You could throw it, hit somebody around a corner by shooting it just at the right time as it's going around the corner, which is really common because if you like wing somebody, then they're like hurt and they edge around a corner and you try to get them and they go around. But actually, it's got a lot of use for just throwing it on the ground and letting the fuse detonate itself too. Like, you have a bunch of tanks rolling up through a choke or something, and they have a bunch of their barriers up, and you're like, well, I'm not very good in this situation with my rifle. But if you just throw the dynamite down in front of them, it's like you can't just kind of walk through that really slowly because it does so much damage. So there's a lot of utility in this ability as well. And then, of course, couldn't be Ash without Bob. So I do have to say, Ash almost didn't happen because we were adamant about Bob being with her, and it was surprisingly technically very challenging to get her in the game. There's a lot of technical requirements and memory constraints. We have characters like Torbjorn that can create a turret, but a turret is much less detailed than Bob is. Bob's pretty much a full hero. It's like for that moment in time, you can get 2 heroes on the map at the same time, essentially.
Yeah, a turret can't do uppercuts, can't capture the payload for you.
That's true. Turret can't uppercut yet.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Feature request.
That's true. So Bob, the way he works is you call him in, he kind of jumps in over you and lands right in front of you and starts running forward. And the first person he hits, he knocks up in the air. He'll knock everyone around in the air if he hits anybody. And then he'll come to a stop and start shooting. He pulls out his arm cannons and starts shooting. He'll also, if he hits a wall, he'll just turn around and start shooting as well. So it's really powerful for just, you can do alley-oop moves, which is really fun. If you hit somebody with it, he does a lot of damage knocking them up in the air, but they also lose air control when they're in the air. They can still do their abilities and everything, so if you're like Reaper, you can Wraith form and try to avoid further damage. But if you're somebody who doesn't have that, you kind of get knocked in the air, and Ash is like, well, this is the perfect opportunity, like a really easy moving target here. So that's a great combo with him. But even if you don't follow through with that, if you just throw him into a wall, now you have this really powerful turret with a ton of health behind the enemy, which, Overwatch tends to be this kind of game with a lot of battle lines, and now you have this really powerful thing they have to deal with. You can't just let it shoot everybody back there. So you kind of cause a lot of chaos there, and she gets to just have free reign while he's going crazy. Bob also has a couple properties about him that are very, very different than other turrets and what we call pets in the game. He, in a lot of ways, acts like a 7th hero on your team. He can be healed. He can be debuffed and buffed. He can be nano boosted. That's a really good combo, by the way. If you try that, it's really powerful. He can also be slept though. So if you sleep him and nobody shoots him, let's hope that happens, then it sort of nullifies him entirely. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Zarya bubble and everything. He also can capture and contest points for you. So he's he's there. We actually had a time we had to change a few things. Because it was getting a little crazy the amount of stuff he could do. Because he was, for a while internally, we just let him literally be a full hero in the game. But it led to weird moments where it was like, okay, you're playing an elimination deathmatch game, and then you die, but right before you die, you throw him out there, and then you die, but the game's not over because you still have a member on your team still in the game. And as long as he kills everybody else, you win, because your team was still alive.
Nice. Seems fair.
We have to change that one. There was also a moment where we had the game wasn't started yet. You'd have waiting for players, and it'd be 5 on one team, 6 on another, and you'd call Bob, and the game would start because it's like, oh, we're good. It's like, okay.
I mean, I might rather have Bob than some of the teammates.
Fair enough.
He stays on the objective.
And he doesn't talk back?
It's true. All right, so that's kind of the overview of everything she could do. We actually have a video showing it all in action. We'll run that now.
Funny. They say there's no honor among thieves. But that's not how things work around here. If you cross me, or if you break your word, there'll be hell to pay. You can count on it. Let's clean up this mess. You wanna try me? Poser. Back off. Unstoppable. Burn it all down. Now that gets the blood pumping. There you are. I'm calling the shots. Bob, do something!
Jeff, is it true that it's one of Ash's passive abilities that if she melees McCree while ulting, it's
Yeah, that's-
intimidation?
Maybe we should put that in. That'd be great.
I feel like we need a Bob cinematic. Just
Oh.
it would be a silent film. It would,
I love that we got the Bob do something line from the
from the cinematic.
yeah.
as their alt line. Like that's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
actually a funny story. So, like I was saying, we were working on the production early, and we were prototyping everything. And you know, one of the things about prototyping is we don't have any assets yet. So I'm usually like just stealing whatever we have. Like, I get a skin from this character, and like, I'm a terrible VFX artist, so whatever I can do for VFX, just get it in there. And then I was realizing that, like, man, we really need, like, when Bob is summoned in the playtest, we're having issues where it's like, you can't, people don't know, or they don't hear him coming or whatever. We need like a line. I'm like, hey, wait, they already recorded these lines. We could just use these. So like, during like the prototyping, all the time we would be here, Bob, get in there and smoke him out of there every time she threw a dynamite. It was like ingrained in our consciousness every time we play her. But it was great to have that sort of extra advantage to working on the prototype.
Totally. Yeah, so Ash is a really special character for us because this is one of the unique times where we get to realize a character from, created from story and franchise development into our game. You know, we had something like that with Brigitte, where we took her first from the comic into the animated short, and then into the game we kind of armored her up. But with Ash, this is really the first time that we took the character directly as she was designed into the game, because we were so excited early on, you know, seeing those storyboards, seeing those concepts by the artists, and you know, making sure that because they were so exciting to see, that all the feedback we were giving was like, yeah, this character might make it into the game. This is like, when we first saw Bob, we're like, oh, this is like so cool. I wonder what kind of abilities he would have, or Ash, what kind of weapons she would use, and just making sure that everything we did with those characters would make them great heroes in the game as well. So that's true for Ash, and you know, our character artists, you know, we're able to bring her into the game looking just like she does in the cinematic, making maybe some small adjustments here and there, but she's you know, fully in the game now. And then, of course, there's also Bob. Yeah, shout outs to Bob.
I think they like him.
I think
Yeah.
Bob win. All right.
So Bob, actually, you know, sharing your excitement here, the artists on the Overwatch team were also very excited hearing that Bob was going to be the ultimate for Ash, but we're also a little bit apprehensive and a little bit nervous because this was really the first time we had literally two heroes or two characters in the slot of one hero. In the game of Overwatch, it's, you know, 6v6, and not to get too technical into it, but you know, we kind of have a budget for each character that, you know, for performance of the game, not to, you know, to break the game. And for us to put two characters in the game was a new thing for us. We kind of had, you know, Wrecking Ball with, you know, the hamster and the mech, and we had Diva with her, the pilot and the mech. But this is the first time having like a full-fledged character. I mean, Bob is pretty much as big as Reinhardt size, and you know, Ash is as big as just you know, any of our other heroes. and fitting that into the budget was a huge challenge, but one that the character artists and the engineers on the Overwatch team really took to, and just you can see here that we were able to recreate Bob just as faithfully as we could. It was great that he was almost perfectly symmetrical, except for the little 2 pieces of tape, on his vest over there. There's another element like on there that's symmetrical. I'll let you guys find that one. But yeah, we were able to recreate Bob in the game, and everyone's super excited. And the next challenge for us was, how do we literally bring him into the game? Now that he was in there, we wanted to, for the gameplay, for him to appear very instantly, because this was a very important gameplay mechanic where Ash summons Bob, sometimes as an escape mechanic. You want to just knock out the person that's right in front of you. So it's imperative that he appears very quickly. And early on, we kind of brainstormed all these different ideas. We're thinking like, oh, maybe he comes to a portal, or like maybe he kind of phases in like hard light, like Symmetra's turrets.
Like the one coming out of the ground like a mole.
Kind of busts out the ground, like the Kool-Aid Man. Maybe he drops down from a dropship, but all of those things just didn't feel like things that a biker gang or like a gang in the American Southwest would do. They all felt too techy or too sci-fi. So we took inspiration from other parts of the game. What if he was like more like Doomfist, his meteor strike, where he just kind of jumps up and comes right in. So we have Bob just like leaping in from a very far distance. Here's a movement concept from our concept artist, Ben Zhang, just kind of illustrating ideas on how we can have him appear on screen. Originally, we're thinking maybe we need a giant dust cloud to kind of hide the fact that he's coming real quick, but actually ended up turning out really intuitive, and actually he kind of comes in really smoothly and kind of exits really smoothly. So I'm glad to see how he kind of got integrated into the game. The next thing we want to talk about is the Viper. So Jeff talked a little bit about this, but we really wanted to recreate Ash's gun as authentically as possible from the animated short, so making as little adjustments as possible. One thing we had to fine-tune a little bit is with the new reload mechanic that Jeff designed, we really wanted that reload to feel really good and have like a nice little port for the bullets to go into. Again, early on, we're brainstorming different ideas that she could kind of reload really quickly, because the reload has to be pretty quick to get, like, how many shots did you have, like 20?
She's 12 right now, I believe.
12 bullets in there. So we're thinking at first maybe she needs a speed loader or something. But again, that ended up feeling a little bit too techy, and there's just something about like that visceral sound of putting the bullets in by hand one at a time. It just feels really good. Another thing that the artists and game designers worked really hard on is getting that alternate fire to just feel really good. We have a lot of very passionate first-person shooter players on the art team and on the design team. And I just remember this moment where you guys were all just huddled around a desk, like fine-tuning the FOV, the field of view, and like the depth of field, like how blurry the background gets, or just like fine-tuning the size of the gun on the camera, just making it feel nice to get in that alt-fire mode. And it feels awesome. I can't wait till you guys get to try it for yourselves. The next ability is the dynamite. So here we have a lot of different versions. We actually did a lot of exploration early on, because the ability originally started off as a cluster bomb, right?
Yeah, so originally, in some of the earlier playtesting, we just had to do a big explosion, but some of the problems we were finding was if you want to do a bunch of damage to tanks, or not even tanks, just people behind barriers, it's kind of hard because the explosion wasn't that big at the time, and you had to throw it so high you couldn't hit them. So we tried to design where you could hit it and then it would like rain into cluster bombs, so you could like shoot it above people and rain on them. It was kind of really cool visually, but it kind of had a problem where it was like this extra now delay where you're shooting it and then the other things fall and then those have to explode, and it's like, game's so fast, it usually didn't work out that well unless you just got really lucky. But so we ended up going back to adding a bigger explosion, fire, and everything. Yeah,
so again, our lead concept artist, Ben Zhang, took a pass at you'll see the top row, those are more of the cluster bomb types, and then we went back to the more single dynamite design on the left side, and it was kind of reading a little bit too high-tech again. And then just turning it red, though, gave it that classic dynamite read from afar, but also looking closely, it has that nice kind of sci-fi Overwatch feel to it. So next is my favorite part.
Yeah.
Show some skins. So Ash and Bob are, I think, the most fun that the concept artists had designing skins, because usually, you have one character, and first thing we do usually is come up with a theme for the skin. And there's usually all these different elements, like whether you're a pirate or like a ninja or whatever. There's all these different things you could use to put onto the character, and usually it's too many. We end up pulling things out. But with Ash and Bob, we can really give them both all of these different elements from all of these different themes that we thought of. So the first one is the mobster.
Love that hat.
Yeah, those hats,
Bob
man.
hat.
The headwear is on point for Ash
The
and
man
Bob.
knows how to wear a hat. He's got a great mustache.
Yeah, like just with the mustache and the hat, like Bob, you look so good. Yeah, like Jason was mentioning earlier, some of the early concepts felt like a little bit mobster, so we're like, wait a minute, let's save that idea for later. We did this old-timey mobster skin, and the concept artist on this, Morten Skalvik, he was telling me, originally we actually had her with the black kind of overalls and the white shirt, and that ended up looking too much like her original look, so we ended up kind of swapping the colors on that, and it actually turned out really, really good. And the next one is the safari skin. Yeah. Safari wins is going to be in trouble.
I love this
friends.
skin. This is phenomenal.
Got the little goatee now.
Yeah, he got a goatee.
Yeah, again, the hats are just like awesome. Again, Morten was telling me, like, with designing skins for Ash and Bob, one of the things he wanted to keep in mind was making sure that, Ash always felt like the leader, and Bob always felt like the lackey, and it really comes through in these two designs. And these are super awesome in the game as well. And they'll be coming out with Ash shortly. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for joining us.
Can we play her?
Yeah.
Can we play her?
Yeah, you guys can play her right now, actually. She's on the floor here. Hopefully the line's not too big, but yeah, please definitely play her. Give us feedback on everything. We love to get any kind of feedback, especially initial reactions and everything.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for attending Overwatch What's Next? Coming up, Hearthstone.
Intuitive and
And he just started laughing. He just like, this is a great design. Color palette were a little too similar to Reaper, and for both in cinematics and in the game, we definitely want to very run through the frame as you're like, scoping in on them. You want to know who you're going after or who you're seeing super fast. So at this point, we knew we had to continue to explore the space. We had to continue to try more design. So I asked Xiongha, I'm like, just go, just run with it. And this is the first one that she came back with. Again, super cool. Really, just like, this is a great design. But
wherever you go, for our Blizzard fans, is the passion is the same. The passion everyone feels for the community, for Blizzard, for the games is the same.